Darren, how many ministerial resignations do you think Boris Johnson can take? He said at the dispatch box, when asked a cheeky question from a Labour MP, you don't like strikes, Prime Minister, what are you going to do about your own cabinet going on strike and walking out? He said there's a ready supply of skilled labour at the top of the Conservative Party. Is there?
Yeah, I think, there are many ministers this afternoon questioning their position, Liam. Many of them, and we may well see many of them go in the coming hours. I think we've had 17 or 18 thus far, a couple in the last hour, including from DEFRA and from the Housing Department. I think the greater question for the Prime Minister is not how many he will lose, but could he possibly replace all of them? Are there enough MPs now in Parliament, in the Conservative Parliamentary Party, who are frankly willing to serve under him? And, at the moment, that seems pretty tricky indeed. Let's just pick up on a few things. I just heard you talking about the prospect of a general election. That's been talked about, hasn't it, as one option, almost the nuclear option for the Prime Minister. I mean, I think that is close to pretty much zero. I think constitutionally it's quite tricky. Being reported this morning from Buckingham Palace that essentially if the Prime Minister were to go to the Queen to try and dissolve Parliament, she may well effectively say no. Why would she do that? Well, because there is a working majority for the Conservatives in Parliament. There's no constitutional need for an election. And I don't think his party wants one. So I think that's unlikely. I think that he's more likely to get booted out than to see a general election, frankly. But let's be clear about this. That was a very, very difficult Prime Minister's question time for Boris Johnson. Attacks from all sides, including his own backbenchers, including from some MPs who've been pretty loyal up until recently. Sajid Javid's speech as the former Health Secretary, much compared to Geoffrey Howe's moment just before Margaret Thatcher stood down. I mean, it was clearly pretty devastating, attacking the Prime Minister's integrity, attacking the fact that ministers had to go repeatedly out to defend the Prime Minister time and time again. And in the end, they were not willing to do that anymore because they felt they were being misled. So where do we go to next? Well, it's looking increasingly likely, I think, if there was a vote of confidence, that the Prime Minister would lose that. Is Sir Graham Brady going to go to number 10 and say, Prime Minister, the game's up? Because, frankly, I've got enough MPs who are not willing to vote for you, that if you were to force a vote of confidence, you would inevitably lose. Would the Prime Minister in those circumstances think about the resigning, that the game is up? Would he want to force another vote of confidence? And in those circumstances, would he almost certainly lose it? And could all this, Liam, frankly happen, not in the coming days, but in the coming hours? I would suggest it could. We could see things move very quickly this afternoon.